Let's do a little LSU film review, Jake. And again, I don't think this is going to be terribly long like last week's breakdown, simply because a lot of this was more of just validation or confirmation of what we thought we saw live. Because overall, my general kind of takeaway is this was just great film in every single facet from LSU, which is why I'm a bit hesitant to want to draw too many conclusions from, right? Because, like, what it's New Mexico, who is not bad, but they're not even what you're going to face this weekend in Auburn. Thing is, when you play a lesser opponent like this, though, Jake, at the end of the day, you can only play as well as you are capable of playing. And that's like essentially what LSU did, despite maybe a couple minor quibbles. And so you got to feel good about them taking the opponent seriously, showing up, and getting it done. Offensively, I mean, Jake, the last two games, the amount of pockets that Jaden Daniels has had, I mean, that guy he is chilling. Mississippi State is, Mississippi State is one thing, but like this New Mexico game, he was not under pressure at all again. I thought the offensive line did a fantastic job. I think it probably looks like Anthony Bradford is the answer at right guard. What I'm fascinated to see, and I'm going to watch Auburn film right after the show today, so I've not watched it yet. But what I am fascinated to see is what happens if they run into another Florida State situation. Because I know Mississippi State's D-line was supposed to be really good. I didn't really think so. LSU dominated them. What happens if you run into another one of these dogs? Can you handle them? We're going to see. But I mean, again, I come out of this game, and I feel like the offensive line improved upon that great step forward that we saw at State. And so I'm pretty excited about them going forward.
So I know we disagree on the Mississippi State defensive line, but you're going to see when you watch Auburn tape today that Mississippi State defensive line is better than the front that Auburn has.
Well, that makes me very encouraged about my LSU bet that I already placed. Because I'm an idiot, and I placed another big one on LSU because I bet with my heart, and I'm dumb. Sorry.
You already did?
Already did.
Oh, good, because it's going up.
I know. Since you got it at 7.5, it's already at 9 this morning, boys.
Oh, good for you. Now, the positive for LSU, outside of this Auburn defensive line not being probably the third best that they faced this year, is you're starting to come together. Overall, as an offense, you graded out 82.5 as far as pass protection, but we talked about it yesterday. Will Campbell, 87.5. Dellinger, 85.9. Miles Frazier, even 83.6. Now, in the run game, I thought he struggled at times. Anthony Bradford, 83.2. And Charles Turner was your only offensive lineman that didn't have a passing grade in pass protection, because even Emory Jones was right at 69%. So this unit's also getting better. Now, pass protection has been a couple of weeks in a row. I thought the run blocking was actually pretty good outside of really one or two guys. So this offensive line is starting to figure it out. There's still a couple things you'd like for them to be more consistent with, and certainly in picking things up. But I think from week one, where you really didn't have a plan against cover zero, you're starting to see that they have a plan and everybody understands what the plan is.
Yeah, I think that the challenge New Mexico represented, and Kelly talked about this yesterday, but it's going to be different than what they're going to get challenged with this weekend, where it's like New Mexico, all it was stunts, right? I mean, it was just constant stunts and movements, trying to confuse you. I felt like for the most part, they did a very good job of passing it all off. And I say Anthony Bradford should be right guard. I mean, no, look, I'm fine with the rotation there, because Miles Frazier did have some nice film here. He is a powerful punch, which is maybe probably a bit why he's over his toes sometimes. But when he does connect, he connects very well.
Emory Jones, by the way, I want to get this in there. He graded out at over 90% in the run game.
Wow.
He's a mauler.
Bro,
he's learning a new position.
So
there's going to be times at right tackle. He came here as a guard. There's going to be times in pass protection that maybe the technique of a new position is going to get the better of him. But in the run game, he gets to the second level like textbook, clinic tape. What you want him to do to get to the second level, to work a combination block with his guard or a tight end, he's already got that part figured out. I mean, if you go watch the tape, he's always trying to hunt a linebacker at the second level, and the grades show it.
The thing that stands, the words that always come to my head when I'm watching Emory Jones is just his body control.
Yeah.
For being how young he is, which sometimes when you're 18, you can still resemble that of like a gangly deer. trying to kind of find its way. But to be as young and big as he is and yet look so lithe on his feet, like he honestly kind of moves like a big cat, Jake. Like he's very light on his feet for how big he is. He plays with a nice base. He's been at his knees, not as his hips. Like it's the potential on this cat is wild. And again, it's so crazy that he wasn't here the entire time and that he is learning this kind of as things go on. I got a question, Jake. Is Brian Thomas the most exciting person on the offense with the ball in his hands? And I'm not, and look, I get it. Like, I'm not, that does not mean better than Jure or Malik. It's not at all what I said, but is he the most exciting? Because again, after rewatching this film and all the film this year, every time that kid touches the ball, like the first person never gets him down, dude.
So you can have different levels of excitement. That can mean something different, but I understand what you're trying to say is when he touches the ball.
Dynamic, maybe.
No. You're fine. When he touches the ball, there's a chance that something special is going to happen every time because he does have the ability to make the first defender miss. He's just such a big body.
Yeah.
And then with his speed to go along with his size, like we've seen bigger receivers kind of in that same mold that like Stephon Sullivan kind of comes to mind.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the speed or anywhere really close to the speed that Brian Thomas has. And so he's somebody that the coaching staff loves. Obviously, they want to get him in the game. But the best part about this receiver core is it's just got different guys with different skill sets. Like Chris Hilton's going to be your, hey, I'm running straight. You know I'm running straight, but you're not fast enough to keep up with it. Like, and you have to have one of those within your offense.
Do you think that could have been a touchdown if Hilton maybe adjusted to it a bit quicker? It's a bit of an odd ball where, I mean, it's not a perfectly thrown ball, but Hilton, it's a weird thing where he, like, kind of at the last second moves inside to catch it, and I think that's kind of what tripped him up.
But still, that's what he's in there for.
Yeah.
He's in there to be able to do that. And Jure Jenkins, he is your, hey, it's third down, and I need to trust somebody. He's that guy. Like
best throw of the night, 3rd and 7, red zone to Jure, right over a linebacker, underneath his safety. Beautiful from Jaden Daniels.
And so, like, you have a different combination of receivers. And I think that's what works out best for this group. And you're starting to see that rotation kind of change a little bit because the first game they didn't really rotate a ton of guys in there. They stayed with the same group. And now, as we talked about yesterday, you're seeing more guys play more offensive snaps. Jack Besh actually led the receiver group with 53 offensive plays. Malik Neighbors was second with 43. Kyron Lacey was 3rd with 36. Then Jure was 4th with 33.
Yeah, and look, and Besh was fantastic. Getting the ball to him quickly in those short, over-the-middle situations seemed to really pay dividends. You can see in the punt return how dynamic Besh is with the ball. He also looks like your punt returner, right? Because he is fearless back there. He's sure-handed. There's a dynamism there. So I think he's probably the guy going for it until he's not, right? As we've seen at that position. Okay.
That felt like you went all in, and you're like, maybe not.
Well, I mean, honestly, but right, if he fumbles,
I know.
If he makes one or two dumb mistakes, or makes the same mistake twice, then you're done.
So in my career, when I was playing here, like you had to be a guy that could score a touchdown almost every time you touched it, if you were going to fumble the ball to stay in there.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I first got here, it was Skylar Green. Mm-hmm. Skylar was a stud. Mm-hmm. Then it was Buster Davis, first-round receiver, right? Then it was Trenton Holiday. It's like, okay, sometimes they have a tendency to put, not really Skylar, but the other two, it's like maybe they have a tendency to put it on the ground. But you know what? By God, if they catch it, there's a likelihood they're going to return it for a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
or at least have a big return, obviously.
Did Trey White fumble a couple back in the day?
I think so.
Yeah, remember? But he also scored a few, so that is what it is. Okay, to wrap up my offensive thoughts here. I thought Garrett Nusmeier looked really solid.
That was good for him.
It was great for him. A couple nice, easy wide receiver screens to start. He immediately looked very confident, decisive, rhythmic. He had a deep ball to Neighbors that he barely missed. And this is something that they've been doing a lot more. Is on a 7-man protection, Jake, every now and then, when they want to take a shot, you're noticing with this offense, they'll do a 7-man protection. And I think they like doing it with Daniels in these positions because their hope is that, okay, if you choose to kind of play coverage, and they're these like long developing routes, if you're going to try to choose to play coverage, the routes will bring you downfield, and maybe then you got 7 guys to block and help clear the way for Daniels. I'm not entirely sure, but that's what they've been taking shots in. That's when Nuss went for that deep ball to Neighbors that barely missed, but Nuss looked great. The Noah Kane run was a thing of beauty. Yeah. Final offensive thought. Jake, he had a player coming from his left from in front of him. And so he ran into another defender, ran at him, and stiff-armed him while running at him to create space, and then threw him behind him into two other defenders, and everybody fell. You got to get the back angle, Danny, or a different angle, because the stiff arm is normally you stiff arm away, right? Mm-hmm. This was the pure, I'm just bigger, stronger, faster, because I'm avoiding this guy, and I'm going to stiff arm into you to create space from this tackler. Defensively, man, look, just you're not
gonna let me speak on the running backs?
My bad.
Dang.
My bad. Go ahead.
I mean,
the Noah Kane run was awesome.
I know there's not any fullbacks in this offense.
Okay, here it is.
Anymore,
So that means broken tackle's great, but watch him start to run to the right and seek him out.
I do love that.
Oh my God.
I do love that. So Noah Kane, the first game got a lot of run against Florida State, and then against Mississippi State kind of went away a little bit, only played a couple of plays, and he's back in here this game. That's what this running back rotation in room's probably going to look like.
Yeah.
There's not going to really be a rhyme or reason, but they're going to go with probably a hot hand or the better matchup. Now, Armani Goodwin, and I told you before we came on the show yesterday, and it's true, and I know this sounds crazy. He's so explosive, it's hard for him to stay healthy. That's just the way it is. We've all played with that guy. You don't have to, been a college football or NFL football player to know what I'm talking about. Like even in high school, he is an explosive football player. So hamstrings and ankles and all that.
I mean, his hamstring literally looked like it exploded. I don't mean that. I have no idea what the medical diagnosis is. They said day to day in the press conference yesterday, but I just mean he was mid-run and it just went his leg just caught up. It almost looked like he leapt through the air.
So he's going to deal with that. That's just the way he's built, the way his body. Me or T-Bob, we never had to worry about that. No. Too explosive to stay healthy, but he kind of does. I mean, that's just the way his career has kind of gone. So getting John Emery 9 carries in this game, that's going to be important. You still have Josh Williams, who's that old trusty vet that if you had to go to him, obviously we've seen him make big plays. He did against Mississippi State with that touchdown run. So for me, they got to have all three of those guys step up. Certainly if Goodwin misses time, you got to have that running back by committee because that's what this team has right now. Yeah. They have three running backs that are capable, and they've all had good moments, and John Emery's only going to get better with each and every game.
Defensively, this film was pretty much perfect. It's pretty wild. They don't have a ton to say. Matt House had this group locked in. I love the way that this defensive backfield plays in run support. I mean, they hit. They take on blocks. They set the edge and force things back inside. And then you get Jay Ward and Joe Fouché back this week, along with Greg Brooks, Mekhi Gardner, the way that they're playing. Seven Banks even had a really nice TFL at one point.
Jared Bernard-Converse got the game ball.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's the secondary. They hit. They play hard. They're great in run support. Which, look, if you're going against Auburn and Tank Bigsby, that's a very good sign. But Jake, the guy, and okay, a couple more before I get to my main takeaway. Savion Jones has been really good again off of the edge. 6'6", 250. He just looked massive out there. Xavier Carter was nice. Kind of forgot about Xavier Carter. He's a sophomore from Atlanta, 6'4", 205, playing because B.J. Ojolari did not. Now, you're going to get Ojolari back, but Xavier Carter showed you enough where I would give this kid some reps in some bigger spots here and see what he can do with it. But the guy that I could not take my eyes off of, Jake, is number 40. I mean, my Harold Perkins hype train is hurtling down the tracks, and there ain't no stopping it, dude. His technique, his reads, how instinctive he is when it comes to shedding blocks, getting off. It's fantastic.
Hey,
it's so impressive. It's overwhelming.
I think we need to do this because you pointed out a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Mississippi State film, how he's already being a savvy vet with his eyes, with his body lean to set something up. You sent us a clip in the group chat. I think that would be, I know radio sometimes it's hard to play off, but I think it's worth putting up on the screen and just showing you exactly what T-Bob's talking about.
And T-Bob sent highlight cut.
T-Bob sent another play last night. Same thing, like a savvy vet move. So
you talking about that juke?
Dude, and I hate doing this, but he's got some in the numbers and everything. I understand. He's got some real Devin White in him.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I hate it. I don't want to be there, but he Devin White's instincts from even when he was wearing jersey 24 and being a special teams war daddy at LSU. there's nothing you can do to coach that. You have that, and then you're a physical freak as well.
Yeah,
like Harold Perkins, the tape, and we're gonna bring it up on air here in a little bit. It's just amazing how already he knows some of the little nuances of the game to be able to create an advantage for himself.
And it's interesting because Jake, they have him playing in space. Like he was lining up like almost in coverage a lot of times this game, and they're bringing him from all angles. Yeah. And look, Matt House and Kelly said as much yesterday in the presser. He's doing a really good job of giving Perkins vertical slices of the playbook because he's never out of position. So he like understands what his role is, but he's not overthinking. He's out there playing fast and instinctive. And again, when I start to think about this man and his development under a guy like Matt House, who has coached that position so intensely at the highest level, you get goosebumps thinking about how good this kid could be over the next couple of years. So Harold Perkins continues to just jump off of the screen, and we can break some of that down in a bit. There it is. There it is. Special teams, Ollie Gay's on the edge next to Nick Storrs for whatever that's worth now in field goal protection.
He's been there for a couple weeks.
It's a big old body. I didn't notice that last week. Big old body out there. And I'm a big fan of Damon Ramos kicking field goals. I know he missed one. Yeah. He barely missed it. I think Ramos is more solid than I expected him to be when we were entering this year.
You made some adjustments with the personnel, and you had to. You moved some guys in different positions, and you had to. And I know I sound like the old man just talking about back in my day. You have to have dudes on special teams. You don't have to have 11 dudes, but you got to have some of them on there. You have to have some of the guys that you're counting on. And this team, with this roster, they should have plenty of candidates in the linebacker room because that's a rotating position.
Yep.
DBs, same thing. Receivers, some of the receivers, running backs.
I guess you're kind of thin. You're
kind of thin there, and I don't really know that. Josh Williams could probably give you some special teams, but receivers, get some receivers in there that can help you on teams, and so they've got candidates for it. You saw some of those candidates start to find their way on special teams as well.
So solid film, man, really solid film, and again, you can only do what you can only play as good as you can against lesser opponents. But LSU has been so good, Jake, in these let's say, outside of the first 3 quarters of the season. They've been a pretty damn good football team. Yeah. The Bill Connolly's S&P Plus, which we can get into a bit later, actually has 12.